2023 is shaping up to be a massive year for crypto airdrops. In the last few years, we've had huge airdrops where people have made up to $50,000 on Optimism, $30,000 on ENS, $18,000 on Uniswap, and recently people made between $2,000 and $7,000 on 𝗵𝗲𝗏. And although the game is getting a little bit more competitive these days, I think in 2023 we have some of the potential biggest airdrops that we've seen in recent times, and I think there's going to be many opportunities this year to be able to capitalize on the mass amount of incentives that projects are now pumping into the market to get their users to use their protocols. So in today's show, I'm going to be going through 10 of my favorite crypto airdrops for 2023 and showing you guys the steps that it will take to get involved in these airdrops. Now, remember, with airdrop hunting, you're not going to get every single one. Some you're going to miss, some you might get, some might over deliver and some might under deliver, but it's all part of the game. And I think the more that you do, the higher chance overall you have of getting a reward at the end of the day. So I still think it is worthwhile in 2023 to at least dedicate some time towards crypto airdrop farming. Maybe it's only 10% of your crypto research time. Maybe it's only 5%, but at least do something so you can potentially get your hands on some decent airdrops. And it may just be a few $100s, but for a lot of people, you know, that can be life-changing money, because you have to remember every dollar invested in the bear market can potentially be worth $10 to $20 in a bull cycle. So if you make $1,000 off airdrops and you invest it wisely, that can become $10,000 next cycle. So it is a powerful tool for compounding wealth, and that's why I'm going to get into my top 10 at the end of the show. I'll be giving you my trades for this week that I think are looking pretty good. There's one token that I'm actually going to be buying today or tomorrow, and I'll also be giving you a bonus airdrop at the end, which no one's really talking about, but I think has really, really good potential. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. The first airdrop I want to talk about is SUI. Now, obviously, 𝗵𝗲𝗏 had those huge incentives where they gave away $7,000 to people that just signed up for their testnet. All they needed to do was put their email in and they got a massive airdrop. Now, I think the SUI airdrop is going to be a little more difficult than what 𝗵𝗲𝗏 was, but the reason why I'm comparing it to 𝗵𝗲𝗏 is because they are both born out of the same project. So Facebook had a project called DM Protocol, which they then ended up kind of defunking, and then SUI and 𝗵𝗲𝗏 were born out of the Move programming language, something that Facebook engineers and developers were working on, and subsequently they got massive investments from the likes of FTX and 𝗔𝗄𝗏𝗏, and we've seen 𝗵𝗲𝗏 go and become a top 3 blockchain by FDV in recent times. Although the price is slightly manipulated, there's no doubt that these protocols are being favored by the market as newer protocols. So SUI, in my opinion, is going to be one of the biggest airdrops of 2023 potentially. And although this is kind of very highly anticipated, I think it's still worth having a go, because we recently saw that they released their latest testnet. And their testnet 3 will give an opportunity for you to actually get on the network early and use the network. So what they're doing is they're giving away, according to their documents, 20% of their tokens to early contributors. Now, we don't know exactly how this is going to be distributed, but they have 6%, which is being distributed to community access program and app testers. So we know that there's enough in the token distribution to indicate that there will be some sort of incentive mechanism for early users of the platform. And that's why SUI makes my number one spot for an airdrop that I'm going for in 2023. Although this video is not in any particular order, because there's some airdrops towards the end, which I think are a bit smaller, but still have an opportunity for you guys to get involved. So we do know that they're going to be giving away some to the community. They haven't officially announced an airdrop. However, I think there's a good chance that they do have an airdrop based on their tokenomics. And to get involved, it's actually quite simple at the moment. All you need to do is create a SUI wallet. Then you need to go and add the wallet to your Google Chrome, like you'd add a MetaMask extension. Then you need to join their Discord, discord.gg/SUI. Make sure you use the correct address, because there's a lot of scam Discords going around. Go to developers, go to the 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗏 channel, enter in this code, 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, and your SUI address, which is the address that you will create when you sign up for the Google Chrome. Then you need to ask for testnet tokens, bridge them across to your SUI wallet, and use those tokens to interact with a bunch of dApps, which includes minting an NFT, connecting your wallet to a few of the dApps on the ecosystem, getting involved with governance, and playing games. So testnet wave 3 is basically so the community can get involved, so the community can mint NFTs and use dApps. So if you want the full steps, I have linked in the description my thread, which has all the resources involved that you can click on And yeah, so you always have it for reference in case you want to have the full in-depth steps. Because in today's video, I'll be kind of explaining my logic, but not necessarily going through every single step, as I could make a 10-minute video arguably for every single airdrop in today's video, because there are steps involved with each one. All right, going on to airdrop number 2 out of 10, we have Vela Exchange. Now, this one has a lot of hype behind it at the moment. What it is an upcoming DEX, an upcoming perpetual DEX on the 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗏 blockchain. So similar to GammaX, similar to Gains Network, it's a perpetual DEX that has a really cool UI. And the token, which is live, although the dApp isn't live yet, has been exploding in recent times. The token's gone from $1 to above $3 at one point in just the space of a week. So it's been one of the strongest performers in crypto, and it's one that a lot of people have been picking up now on social media. Now, from a token perspective, this does interest me because it comes in at a $20 million market cap versus GMX at $300 million versus Gains at $150 to $200 million. Although the fully diluted is high, my argument against the FDV being a concern is the fact that on a very short time frame, the market tends to ignore FDV. And we have seen this with protocols like Aptos. So although long-term there is a lot of dilution here, and that will likely affect the price long-term, this isn't a bet I'd be making long-term at all. In the short term, there might be opportunities on pullbacks to accumulate the Vela token. But another way to get the Vela token is going to be via the airdrop. So what they are doing is releasing a public beta with an early access round for early whitelisted users. And then on February 9th, which is in roughly 10 days, but by the time you're watching this, it might already be out, they're releasing an open beta, which is basically anyone that can test out and use the protocol. And in exchange for using the protocol, given the fact there is dilution to come, it's highly likely that they will be incentivizing via an airdrop. So I do expect open interest to increase significantly on the platform. Because there's a lot of airdrop hype, I do expect there to be a lot of trading on the platform, which does make maybe investing in the Vela token a decent play, at least in the short term. But I'll do a more in-depth video on maybe the perp DEX narrative a bit later, give you guys my full thoughts. I wouldn't be aping into the token now, but it certainly is an interesting one. It's like a high-risk short-term bet, given the fact there will likely be a lot of interest in the protocol once it launches, and they do have a lot of incentives. So Crypto 𝗚𝗏𝗏𝗏, who is actually an ambassador of Vela, just full disclosure, says that there is an airdrop coming and that the 𝗕𝗏𝗵𝗶 rewards are around 10 to 60% extra APR for those that are early. So he says there's going to be big incentives for people that potentially get involved early. And the only way you can get involved early is to sign up for their beta. And to sign up for their beta, you should follow them on Twitter and also join their Discord to stay up to date with any latest developments. Because if you can get involved, I think it will be a decent one that will have an airdrop. And it could be a sizable airdrop if the token keeps growing. And clearly it's a narrative that's very hyped in the market at the moment, hence why it could be a trading opportunity as well. Airdrop number 3 out of 10, zkSync. Now, zkSync is one that I've talked about a few months ago. So I do think that the chance for getting an airdrop now is significantly diminished since its original kind of hype on social media about an airdrop coming. A lot of people have been going for this. A lot of people have been talking about this for many months. So there's a high chance that the snapshot has already been taken. But I do think it's still worth a shot, primarily for the reason that I'm a bit of a DeFi nerd and I really enjoy using the ecosystem. And it's I just love using zk technology. I love using L2s. I think DeFi is super smooth. So if you do want to join testnet and kind of play around with zkSync, I 100% think if this takes you maybe like 20 minutes a week, then it's probably a worthwhile one going for, but just kind of don't have your expectations too high because a large chunk of snapshots taken. Although what we do see with a lot of airdrops is they'll have an initial snapshot, which is very big, and they'll give away those tokens to the initial users. And then they'll have like smaller snapshots, like 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, for example, which had a really big snapshot where some people made up to $50,000 from the airdrop. But then later on, they decided to do a airdrop round 2, which is giving a chance for a second airdrop, albeit it's probably going to be smaller in net terms per user. They're still going to be distributing a part 2. So a similar thing may happen with zkSync where the main airdrop's done, but there still could be a chance to receive a little bit. And that's why I think it's worth getting involved. I mean, look, it's one of the projects I'm most excited about that's launching. I'm a big fan of the zk narrative. I'm actually releasing a thread tonight on zk and why I think it's the future, and also some of the protocols that are in that niche that I'd be looking at positioning myself in. But they raised $200 million, total of $458 million in funding, very well backed. Fully open source, and they've reserved 2/3 of their future token for the ecosystem. So they're kind of betting big on getting people to use the network and getting people to adopt zkSync technology, which I think will probably result in a couple airdrops. So maybe it's worth interacting with zkSync. There is a link in my thread to some steps that you can use to get involved. Basically, just like SUI, you want to join the testnet, get faucet tokens, and start interacting with dApps. It's kind of boils down to that simple, but obviously there's individual dApps on the network that you may want to consider over others that have a higher likelihood of being airdrop requirements. Number 4, this one, unlike zkSync, I think the window is still wide open for a potential airdrop here, and it's one that not everyone's talking about, so it's not too saturated yet, is Scroll zkP. So Scroll is kind of like zkSync. It's another zk EVM-based zk rollup, and it enables native compatibility for existing Ethereum applications and tools. Now, they recently hinted at an airdrop because in their Discord chat, they said that they are creating an incentive mechanism to encourage participation. Now, I mean, if we kind of dissect these words a little bit, they're basically saying there's going to be an airdrop. So the fact we have kind of a roundabout confirmation of an airdrop, and also the fact that we know that their pre-alpha test net has just launched and their main net's going to be launching in Q1, Q2, I think there's a high chance that Scroll's window for an airdrop is still open, unlike zkSync, which likely has closed. So they are creating, they kind of have a very different take on zk EVM to other protocols like zkSync. They're kind of building in the middle of the trade-off that Vitalik stated in terms of compatibility versus performance, where they're kind of EVM equivalent and they're structuring their gas in a different way to some of the other protocols. They're calling themselves zk type 2.5. And there's a really good thread by Blockworks, if you're more technically minded, that goes through the exact way that zk on Scroll actually works. But it's kind of complicated, and I don't think today's video would do it justice. So you can check that out in your own time. But in terms of the pre-market valuations on zk, Scroll is actually number 4 after StarkNet, WorldCoin, and Aztec. Obviously, zkSync as well has had a huge amount of investment into it, but Scroll being valued at $1.8 billion in pre-market valuation. So this is the valuation that they raised capital at. So, I mean, this is already a top 4 zk protocol if we're judging by pre-market valuation. And yeah, it's one that I'm very interested in, given the fact zkSync is being talked a lot about, but Scroll isn't being talked as much about. So how can you position yourself for a potential Scroll airdrop? The steps are quite simple. You go to prealpha.scroll.io. That is their testnet. Then you add their testnet to MetaMask. It's an EVM compatible, obviously, zk rollup, which means it will be on MetaMask, just like your other chains. Then you go to prealpha.scroll.io/faucet. Once again, links will be in the description for all this. Click on faucet, sign in, and request testnet tokens. Click on bridge from the L1 to the L2. And then basically all you need to do is stake these tokens. So you can do it by staking in a liquidity pool. They're testnet tokens, so they're free. You don't need to pay for them. They're simply just to get users using the network. Then, yeah, use their bridge, do a bit of swapping on chain, and join their Discord for more updates. It's really that simple. All you need to do is get testnet tokens, add the Scroll network to your MetaMask, join their Discord for updates, and just get active. And since it's testnet, it's still pretty early. It's still pretty early to this one. So I do think Scroll has a good opportunity to get involved there. So before I get on to number 5, I believe, I'm just going to go through some of my trades because the market is heating up. We did have a bit of a drop this morning, so I want to give you my mindset around trading. Our longs last week, they did pan out quite well. Unfortunately, on gains, I got stopped out on my initial long, which was like roughly a stop out of 11%. But in terms of trades on other exchanges, we played last week fairly well. I mean, we were right to have a long bias, but obviously today things did flip. I was lucky to be in an Aptos, and I think I'm in an XRP short as well. Yeah, on Apex. But in terms of what I think is going to happen over the next few days, it's pretty hard to predict given the fact we have a massive week. We have FOMC coming on Wednesday. We have earnings on Thursday. On Friday, we have non-farm payroll, so US job numbers. It's going to be a volatile week, and this isn't the greatest week ever to be trading using very, very high leverage. But there is a level that I'm comfortable trading Ethereum at specifically right now, because I just believe it's decent risk reward. And this is on the daily at the 200 MA. We know how important the 200 moving indicator is on altcoins in general, but specifically Bitcoin and Ethereum. The market tends to adhere to the structure. We obviously broke out, had a pretty clean retest, had another retest, and then that was bullish confirmation for Ethereum. So anytime we test the 200 MA, you kind of have a very good level to set a stop. And I think the key with trading is knowing where to set your stop. and knowing how much risk you're taking on each trade. And like we saw last week, I was right on my Bitcoin trade. The market did significantly pumped, but I got stopped out before I could capture upside because the trade's risk reward wasn't quite there, given the fact that the wick you needed to set your stop under was too far away, essentially. So with the MAs, I do like it because you can open a trade on the moving average, and then you've got a very easy place to set your stop for like a 6% stop loss. So for me, if Ethereum does come down and test this 200 MA again, that would be a place that I'm interested in longing for Ethereum specifically. For Bitcoin, I think that will coincide with the touching of the previous range that we outlined. So if I go into the hourly, you'll see that I don't look at the EMAs on the hourly, by the way. I look at them on the higher time frames, daily and weekly. But on the hourly chart, Bitcoin kind of started to retest this lower range. I think if we do get a continued pullback, we'll probably come down and test 22.3 to 22.4. That would be my region for opening a Bitcoin long. Why aren't I opening a long now? Because we're mid-range and it's a terrible risk reward. Why is it terrible risk reward? Because if you open a leverage trade now, where do you set your stop? Well, the only real place you can set it is under the previous wicks at the 22.2 region. And that is just way too far away unless you're using like 1 or 2 or 3x leverage. So for me, it's not a good risk reward zone. If we kind of come down and tag this zone like this and then confirm above, you can long on the confirmation. And then we know where we can set our stop and we're not risking much capital. And it's the exact same for Ethereum right now. Trading on the higher time frames, either we come down and test 1520, or we test the EMA 200, which probably will end up coinciding. I don't know when it's going to happen, but if it does coincide over the next day, then that would be a good place to long, in my opinion, then set a stop loss under. So I will be opening this trade. Right now, it's 1525 is the current level, but we don't know. Obviously, EMA moves over time, so this could end up looking a little bit different. So in a day, the retest could be at 1530. So I will open this trade. I'll set my order on a limit order on the Gains trading comp at 1525, and then I'll set my stop loss slightly below that at the kind of the 1490 region, and that'll be my trade. So stop loss roughly, it's going to be roughly 20%, so 1495. Be roughly the trade. So I'm going to set that now on Gains. My MetaMask is prompting an approval that you guys can't see because it's hidden on StreamYard. And yeah, I just placed that order. So that's my order for Ethereum. I also have a Bitcoin long order. Let's see if we come down and test. Those are my trades. If you do want to trade, obviously Gains Network is doing a $100,000 trading competition right now. So it's based on percentage P&L with a $50,000 pool, and then a absolute P&L, which has another $50,000 pool. So potentially you can win up to $20,000 if you come in first place, which is just a huge incentive to trade. The only downside is trading on GNS does have a minimum. So you need to have a decent trading portfolio of at least a few $1,000s to justify a $7,500 position size, meaning $750 on 10x leverage, $375 on 20x leverage is the minimum per trade. So that's the downside. If you have less money than that and you're not trading with a big portfolio, maybe you only have a few $100s, then I'd say the next best DEX to trade on is Apex, which is an L2 powered DEX, actually powered by zkSync, powered by StarkNet, built by Starkware. And this also has much lower fees than Gains, and is also very, very fast and easy to use. And they also have an Ethereum pair with leverage. So yeah, if you want to use that, there's a link in the description. Another DEX. I'm a big fan of trading on DEXs at the moment because they're non-custodial and you get to keep access over your own assets. So link in the description to sign up to Apex, or if you want to get involved with the Gains trading comp, you can trade there. Both links are in the description. Those are my trade ideas. I do have one altcoin that I'm looking at longing that I'll get into at the end of the video and explain my logic there. It isn't on many major exchanges, but I thought I'll mention it at the end anyway to kind of give you guys some more alpha for the day. We're trying to make this the highest alpha per minute show in crypto. And continuing with the alpha, I have 5 more airdrops to share with you, and we'll run through these relatively quickly. So the first one is LayerZero. LayerZero essentially is the ultimate interoperability layer in crypto. Interoperability is a narrative I'm super excited about for next cycle. I think we're going to see a lot of dominant interoperability plays. Basically, what interoperability means is connecting multiple chains and creating ecosystems where you can easily bridge funds from chain to chain, use an application, then bridge across to another application on another chain or another layer, and just have a seamless experience instead of having all these janky, unsafe bridges. as we've seen many exploits, and having kind of a very slow user experience when it comes to using multiple chains at once. So I think any protocol that is helping to reach that vision is going to be a big winner. Connecting the ecosystems together, and LayerZero is one of them. They are trying to create the ultimate interoperability layer, and I did share my kind of airdrop strategy for this in October, but now it's January, so it's getting a little bit late for LayerZero, but I still think there could be opportunities in the ecosystem. And this is the thing with airdrops, guys. Just because the base layer airdrop might be oversaturated doesn't mean there isn't opportunities in the ecosystem. So if you like LayerZero, but you're kind of annoyed because it looks like the airdrop snapshot's already been taken, that's not a reason to give up and be despondent, because you have opportunities in the ecosystem to potentially get involved. Think about all the new dApps launching on LayerZero. Think about all the new applications that are now raising capital. And some of them could be huge successes. They're likely going to have airdrops. And we can see this because the ecosystem is absolutely massive. It's vast. It's building quickly. Obviously, it involves projects that we like Stargate. You've got other networks like Pontum Network. You've got 𝗓𝗓𝗏 now. Rage Trade obviously is one of them as well. And then they have also infrastructure partnerships with, the Polkadot ecosystem and Harmony, etc. USDC, Metis. So it's a big ecosystem, and there's going to be opportunities in that ecosystem. Now, I will do a thread in the future. I'm planning on doing individual ecosystem airdrop threads. So if you're not following me on Twitter, make sure you're following me. That's something I'm going to do. But for now, I think you've got two options. You can go for the LayerZero airdrop, which probably is already over in terms of the snapshot, but it might still be worth getting involved a little bit. And I do have a thread, which is linked in the description as well, if you do want to get involved in this. But I would start looking at some of the ecosystem projects. And a very easy way to do this is to go on DeFi Llama. And you could do this for any ecosystem. And this is proper alpha, by the way. Go to DeFi Llama, go to DeFi in the left, click on airdrops, and then under airdrops, it's going to show you tokens that have just been listed, but don't yet have a live application or a live token. So they've been listed, so confirmed, but they don't have a token live trading. And these projects potentially are the ones that might have airdrops. So how do you work out whether a project's having an airdrop or not? Well, you're going to need to go through each one individually and do some research. So research would consist of looking on Twitter, seeing what people are saying, joining their Discord, searching an airdrop as a key term in their Discord, seeing if there's any confirmation, if there's any strategies, if there's any dApps that are launching that are similar. You need to research for each individual project, but this kind of gives you on DeFi Llama a good idea of projects that could potentially have airdrops. And it shows you what chain they're on. So you might see one that pops up under LayerZero. You might be super bullish on Metis, which is another L2. And then you can kind of look into this one. You might be super bullish on 𝗵𝗏𝗏 and want to get 𝗵𝗏𝗏 airdrops, and you can look into this one. So always keep your kind of finger on the pulse when it comes to new projects. And the thing is, there's not actually that many that launch. Like, you can research the entire month's worth of airdrops probably in like 30 minutes. And a simple way to do this would just be each week, go through each one. So in the last week, there's been, roughly 7. So that's only 7 projects you have to research to find out if they have an airdrop. And all you need to do is do that for 10 minutes each week to stay on top of the new ecosystem. So it's a very good way to keep on track of latest the latest airdrop situation and see if there's new protocols launching. Because obviously something like LayerZero, yeah, it might be saturated, same as zkSync, but there are probably other protocols that are launching underneath these ecosystems that you can still get involved in. Now, another project that you can get involved in but isn't saturated yet, in my opinion, is Shardeum. And this is an upcoming scalable L1. So it's kind of similar to Near Protocol in the sense that their main thesis is that sharding's the future. Sharding is one of the best ways to scale. And they're kind of building underneath that thesis. And it's an L1 that I'm pretty excited about. I think it's going to be cool. Obviously, it's hard to tell whether an L1 will be a success or not. But when it comes to airdrop farming, it's really just about working out whether there'll be incentives or not. And I think for Shardeum, there probably will be. So just to give you an idea of what it is, it's an EVM-based L1 that uses dynamic state sharding to achieve linear scalability. This essentially means that it can increase its TPS with each validator added to the network to retain low fees forever. So the more validators that are added, the more capacity for transactions per second it can add, and the lower fees it can introduce. That's essentially how sharding works. So here are a few of the protocols under Shardeum that could earn you some drops. I did link this as well in the description underneath my thread, and this gives you kind of an insight into how to get involved with Shardeum. So you can add the Shardeum network to your MetaMask. You can add the RPC. The network details are here. Then essentially you need to go into their faucet, on the 𝗕𝗏𝗕𝗏𝗙𝗏 website. Their faucet is the way for you to get testnet tokens. As we've seen with a lot of these testnets, you need to essentially earn your tokens just by requesting them either off the Discord, like SUI, or the faucet websites like Shardeum. And you will essentially be redirected for Twitter. They want you to tweet. I guess that's just part of the way to like promote the airdrop. It's kind of smart. It's a bit gamified. It's a bit, I don't know, scammy is not the word. It's a bit cheap, but that's the way they're doing it. You need to tweet with your address to get the tokens. Then they will add the tokens to your wallet, and then you can use the DEXs on Shardeum. You can use the AMMs on Shardeum, and you can get involved with the ecosystem. And I'd also recommend joining their Discord to keep up to date with the airdrop, because that is where you're going to get the latest updates. Like all of these protocols, the number one tip I have for you is join the Discords, get involved in the community. And here's a little bit of a tip. Keep them in a folder. So let's say you're airdrop hunting for 20 airdrops, because airdrop hunting gets crazy. Like it can get really busy and really overwhelming. So a simple thing to do would simply be join projects Discords that you're going to get involved with an airdrop hunt, and then put them in a folder on Discord. So you may have 10, 20, 30 projects all in a folder. And then every week, every day, however much free time you have to spend on crypto, go through that folder and just keep up to date with each project. Are they launching a testnet? Are they doing a kind of early announcement for a new DEX? Just stay involved with the ecosystem and just have it in a folder so you know all your airdrops are always going to be in one place. And I think you can also do it on a spreadsheet like Excel or Notion. That's another way some people keep track of their airdrops. Whatever works for you, works for you. But I think Discord's just an easy one to do because you can create folders. So Shardeum's another one that I would look out for. The next one is Sei Network. I've talked about this a bit before, so I won't spend too long on it, but essentially it is a trading-focused L1 based on Cosmos, and they did confirm an airdrop. So unlike some of the other protocols we've talked about that we're kind of guessing a little bit whether they're going to have an airdrop, and there's no guarantees we're going to get an airdrop, Sei did confirm that 1% of the token supply will be allocated to their incentivized testnet. We don't know how much of a valuation they are going to launch at, maybe 100 mil, maybe 500 mil. So if it's 100 mil, obviously that's $1 million airdrop. If they launch at $1 billion, that's a $10 million airdrop. So it could potentially be a big airdrop, but we just don't know what their valuation will be by the time that they launch. But we do have a bit of an insight. It's going to be a multi-million dollar project, of course, because A, it's very popular, and 2, they are in a very interesting niche, which is essentially an L1 that is geared entirely towards providing a benefit for exchanges. So they want, Sei, to be the chain that every DEX wants to build on. And the way they do this is they've implemented mechanisms which are specialized for trading. So each aspect of the blockchain is specialized for trading, specialized to help exchanges manage liquidity, and offer certain benefits like a native order matching engine to drive the scalability of order book DEXs built on Sei. And you guys know I'm a big fan of order book DEXs. I think they're the future. Apex, for example, is an order book DEX that I think has a lot of potential. And I really like the protocol, and I really like what they're building. Sei will essentially be home to a lot of these order book DEXs. And I don't know whether Apex launches on there one day. Maybe they do. But I do think in the long run, we're going to see very successful order book DEXs launch. And one of the networks they might launch on is Sei. And that's why I've got my eye on it. And their testnet was a big success. $10 million in total transactions, 800,000 plus testnet wallets in a very short amount of time, and some very positive statistics from Sei. So Sei is definitely one I've got my eye on. And to qualify, you can actually get involved now with the 𝗕𝗏𝗄 wallet. So you can set up their wallet, get testnet tokens. Once again, just like the other airdrops we've talked about today, you need to join their Discord to get testnet tokens. Go to the faucet channel and request tokens for the 𝗕𝗏𝗘𝗫 testnet and the Sei testnet. Once you do have those tokens, then you can go to their mission page and start making transactions on a variety of chains. The underlying essence of airdrops are the chain wants you to use the ecosystem. So as long as you're using the dApps, the primary dApps, and getting involved on a regular basis, that is putting you in a really good position to receive an airdrop. And I do think Sei still has an opportunity, although it may be getting a bit more saturated now. It's probably getting a bit late. I still think it's probably, you have a higher chance of getting Sei than a zkSync or a LayerZero. So that's still what I'd look at, because I think it's going to be a cool protocol. And yeah, it's at the very least worth testing it out. You're not going to lose anything by testing these ecosystems apart from a bit of time. If you're willing to sacrifice 20 minutes for the chance of getting an airdrop, isn't that the best risk reward ever? I mean, you'd probably watch Netflix for 2 hours every night. I'm not saying all of you do, but a lot of people watch Netflix for hours every day. You watch YouTube hours every day. You might scroll through TikTok for hours every day. Isn't it just worth trading half an hour of that TikTok time for the chance of getting thousands of dollars? I mean, I don't know about you, but I think it's a great risk reward spend of time. And that's why I like airdrop hunting. And I think especially for people with smaller portfolios in the sub $10,000 range, this is a really great way to get a head start in crypto. Because even if you just make $300, $400, $500, I mean, that can compound into $5,000 to $10,000 next cycle. And the law of compounding means that the earlier you can get funds, the more it's going to compound later. And if one of the ways you get funds early is via airdrops, then I think that's very valid. Maybe you have other ways. Maybe you have a really high paying job. Maybe you're a whale and airdrops aren't for you. But I think if your portfolio is anywhere sub $10,000 to $20,000, but even sub 50, but like especially sub 10 to 20, airdrops are one of the best ways because you can add 30% to your portfolio overnight from little work that you'd probably otherwise spend on TikTok. So I think it's worth it. But obviously how you spend your time is completely up to you. Number 8, I've got 3 more. The last 2 are pretty small and not many people are talking about them, but I'll want to talk about number 8, which is much bigger, and that's StarkNet. Now, this is another ZK-based protocol, pretty similar to zkSync, that is using Stark proofs to alleviate blockchain congestion. They do work a little bit different to ZK though, because what they are is zero-knowledge, scalable, transparent arguments of knowledge, which essentially are scalable and transparent cryptographic proofs that use lightweight hash functions to trustlessly verify computational integrity. If that was a bit of a word salad, it's because ZK is actually an extremely hard topic to understand, and it takes a very development-minded person to truly understand how ZK works, and I can't claim to, but I do know the essence of what it's doing, and that is offering enhanced scalability for the Ethereum blockchain. All of these ZK rollups exist to solve a problem, and that problem is Ethereum gas fees are very high, and Ethereum isn't very scalable, and they exist to offer that extra layer of scalability using a technology that the entire crypto industry is heavily backing and excited about, and that is ZK proofs. So like zkSync and other optimistic rollup solutions like Arbitrum and Optimism, Starkware rolls up transactions into batches and proves transaction validity through cryptographic proofs. So Starkware is building 2 products, StarkNet, which is a network that is now live on testnet, and StarkX, which is a project that is used to power exchanges like the Apex exchange. To get the StarkNet airdrop, I do think we are running late. However, I do think it's still worth spending a little bit of time. As I mentioned before, looking into the StarkNet airdrop, there's a few ways that you can get involved. Essentially, it's participating in their partial mainnet. It's kind of a testnet, but it's kind of a mainnet. And you can start getting involved with the protocols. So download some of the wallets, bridge assets to the Starkgate bridge. Obviously, add the network to your MetaMask wallet. You're going to need to do that. Get involved with some of the protocols like LayerSwap, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, the NFT marketplaces. Just use the ecosystem and join the Discord for StarkNet. Once again, smaller chance of getting it. But these next 2 protocols, I don't think are too speculative. I do think they are you're probably a little bit earlier to them. And the first one is GammaX. Now, this is built on StarkNet. So if you're late to StarkNet and you want to look for some of the ecosystem airdrops, this is one of them. It's an order book style DEX that utilizes StarkX technology, and you can get involved with their testnet now. Now, I have a link in the description which uses my referral link. You don't need to use it. You can use any link you want, but I just made it easy for you in my thread. Otherwise, you can go on to their website, which is GammaX, and start getting involved with their testnet. And essentially how they're doing the airdrop is they did officially announce an airdrop, but they're launching a points-based system, so a pre-token program for the community. Now, the points-based system relies on a few things: how many referrals you get, so if you can sign up other people to Gamma, how much activity you use, you get points for doing certain things on chain, and also how many times you share it. They have social media points that you can build up to get an airdrop. So they have all the details on the Gamma website. And if you earn points, you can also do so via answering quizzes. You can participate on their testnet, and they have a closed testnet where some users have access. So you can report bugs and use the protocol and give them feedback, and that also gives you more points. But you need to get whitelisted for the testnet. The way to get whitelisted is to use a link. Once again, you can sign up just through the Gamma website, or you can use my referral link. which is linked in my thread. And if you sign up for the testnet, you will get an email that will notify you when you will get access. They're kind of rolling it out on a kind of pro rata basis. And if you can get access, then it is going to be worth using the testnet for a potential airdrop, and not potential because it is confirmed for the Gamma token. So that is one that I'm looking at. And the final one that I'm looking at, that not many people are talking about, but I think is probably one of the most exciting projects that is upcoming, is Neutron. Now, this is going to be the premier venue, so the top venue backed by Cosmos for interchain smart contract deployment. So smart contracts that are deployed on Cosmos, a lot of them are going to go through Neutron, and Neutron is being heavily backed by Atom, the Cosmos hub, which received 150,000 Atom tokens to build a new blockchain. So how to get involved with this? You need to be in the Cosmos ecosystem. And I know we don't really talk about Cosmos too much on the channel, something we probably need to change considering it's the ecosystem's second to none at the moment with their app chains. It's really, really, really awesome to use. If you are staking Atom, which I know a lot of you are, also know some of you aren't, you will likely get an airdrop for this. So if you're staking Atom, you're already in pole position to get an airdrop. If you're not, they haven't announced other distribution methods yet, but I would just follow them and keep my eye on them, because I went through the whole Cosmos ecosystem when I was researching this thread to look at upcoming airdrops, and this was probably my favorite one. So they probably will have another distribution method in the future, but right now the way to get it is from staking Atom. And I think long-term it probably is just worth having a little bit of Atom and staking it. Although the token itself doesn't accrue value that well, and this has been one of my gripes with the Atom token, one way it does accrue value is through airdrops. And who knows? There could be some massive airdrops for stakers in the future, including potentially Neutron. So staking Atom isn't a stupid thing to do. Once again, wouldn't ape into Atom now just to stake for this. That's dumb because, you know, the amount you get might not be that much. If you stake $1,000 with that Atom, you might only get $30 worth of tokens, $20 or $10 worth of tokens. But if you kind of someone that stacks Atom and stakes it over time, then I think something like this is definitely something exciting to look out for, as well as many other projects in the Cosmos ecosystem, which have upcoming airdrops in the future. So Neutron's Q1 roadmap looks pretty enticing. They have liquidity mining gauges and their interchain mainnet launch officially launching. So there's lots to come in Q1. I expect potentially an airdrop in Q2 for early Neutron users, and not just early Neutron users, but also stakers of Cosmos. So one way, if you're not a Cosmos staker, to get involved would simply be just to use the network once it launches on Cosmos. And that's probably the best way that you could get involved with the airdrop if you're not already involved with the airdrop. So now what I want to do is go through a few tips for getting airdrops. I already gave you a couple tips like the 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗏 airdrop trick and the way I organize my Discord folders, but I want to give you a couple more. And then at the end, I'm going to give you a trade that I'm looking at on a token that I think is looking pretty good for a setup right now that I've been wanting to FOMO into, and now I have a level to FOMO into. So that's good. For all you DGens out there, we can look at that at the end. But a few tips first on the airdrop game. You're staying up to date with project updates. As I said, got to follow their Discords, got to be on following them on Twitter. That's how you're going to stay up to date with the latest news, because although I try and give you guys updates on my Twitter, I don't want to turn my Twitter into just one rolling constant stream of airdrop updates. I want to keep it pretty alpha packed. So kind of the ball's in your court now to stay up to date with these projects once I give them to you. Although if there's a huge announcement, of course, I will post about it. There's actually a really, really good thread by 𝗏𝗏𝗏 Airdrop, which does a deep dive overview on airdrop farming management tips. He's one of the expert airdrop farmers on crypto Twitter, and he kind of gives you steps for staying active on chain, diversifying across different airdrops, focusing on farming new projects, how to interact with new protocols, and how to keep up to date. So I highly recommend checking out his thread. It's really, really good. It gives you kind of a full in-depth step-by-step guide on how he stays up to date, because one thing is knowing which airdrops to go for, but then another thing is adhering to those airdrops and having a system which allows you to consistently go for them and not get burnt out. Because this is all about sustainability. This isn't just about FOMOing into a few testnets and thinking you're going to get an airdrop. This is about coming up with a long-term strategy for receiving an airdrop and coming up with a sustainable strategy that you can stick to long-term. The best strategies are sustainable, just like crypto trading, just like crypto research. You need to incorporate it into your routine and be consistent with it over time. And remember that nothing is guaranteed. So a lot of the time, airdrops end up being negligible, $50, $100, $200. To some of you, that may be a lot. To some, it might not be a lot. So nothing's guaranteed, but occasionally you are going to get a big one if you stay in the game long enough. And I mean, the proof's in the pudding. 𝗴𝗚𝗏 $50,000, 𝗕𝗏𝗙𝗽 was 100K, 𝗵𝗄𝗃 7K. Of course, these are like examples of standout performers in the airdrop space, and you might not get close to that in the near future, but you may be able to stack 5 $1,000 airdrops or 10 $500 airdrops. And if you could do that, then you're still making $5,000. So it's still worth it, right? Even if it's much smaller than some of the winning examples. But of course, there will be more 6-figure airdrops in the future. They're not going anywhere. But obviously, you can't bank on hitting one of them because it's hard. It's kind of like you're playing the lottery game. The more lottery tickets you buy, the more chance you have of winning the lottery. Now, with airdrops, unlike lottery tickets, it's actually free to buy a ticket. The ticket is your time. So you can buy more tickets by doing more, but you are paying with your time instead of paying with $20 like you'd use to buy a lottery ticket. That's essentially how I view airdrop farming. And also, yeah, manage your expectations, but also look at the underlying ecosystems. I think this is a pretty big tip. A lot of people forget. They kind of cry when they're like, no, LayerZero airdrop's over. No, Arbitrum airdrop's over. The reason I didn't put Arbitrum in this list is because, frankly, it's over, in my opinion, for an airdrop. But, there are ecosystem tokens launching that could exhibit returns greater than the base layer airdrop. So ecosystem projects under Arbitrum, ecosystem projects under LayerZero that provide investment opportunities and also provide airdrop opportunities. An example of this that we talked about earlier is DXP, Vela Exchange. This is an airdrop on Arbitrum. This is a perp DEX launching on Arbitrum. So if you miss the Arbitrum airdrop, you have an opportunity to get other airdrops like Vela, for example. Now, it's just one example of probably 10 other protocols that are launching. Why did I put this one in? Because I think it's probably the best, with the best UI. In fact, can I show you the UI? Because it's really, really good. I've got the UI here. Yeah, it looks super good. I really like this interface, and it looks like a very promising protocol. So there's many more protocols like this that are launching underneath each ecosystem. So I'd keep my eye on them. So that's kind of my overview on the airdrops. Now we're going to head into a trade that I like. Firstly, I want to talk about Bitcoin. I kind of already talked about it before, actually, at the start of the show. So if you did skip to the end, midway through the show, roughly, I think 15 minutes in, I gave you my setups, which will be timestamped for Ethereum and Bitcoin as well. Where we're sitting right now, once again, no man's land of the range. If you want to take along, you've got to wait for a retest of this region here, probably a break below and then confirmation above, or you can look to short if we approach the top of this range. So this would be a bearish pattern for me. If we came up, rejected here, broke through, and then started showing signs of topping, I think around this zone, in this 23 to 23.2 zone, that would be where I'd look at shorts. You guys know I have longs open for the bottom of this zone and for the EMA 200 on Ethereum on the daily. So those are my long orders, and they may not hit. So then if they don't hit, that's okay. My next trade will be looking at shorting. But I'm not going to just FOMO into trades because for the sake of it, kind of like I did last week, I got a little bit itchy to long. I think this week, got coming in with a much more kind of level-headed approach because it is going to be a volatile week with FOMC. So we can't be too rash with our trading. We have to take trades with very small risk, very small margin for error. That's what I was looking for on our stop losses, so we can ensure that we don't get stopped out even if we predict the right move. In trading, getting a trade wrong is okay most of the time. You can learn a lesson. So if you take a trade and then the market moves in the completely opposite direction, that's usually okay. I can deal with that. What I have trouble with dealing with is when you're right. So you predict market movement, but you get stopped out before the market moves that way. That is the worst. That's the worst thing in trading. So whenever we're trading, we have to get our stop loss right. And I think that's the number one risk management tool, knowing where to set your stop loss. And that's why I'm not longing or shorting right now, because there's really, unless you're on the super small time frames and you're trading on like the 30-minute or the 10-minute time frame, there's really not much you can do in this zone. And personally, I'm not in. I mean, right now it's probably a short on the 5-minute time frame, but then on the 5-minute time frame, you're gonna need to close that within an hour. Like that's a very small trade. So if you're like a real degen, sure, short, and then set your stop at 22.9. But like it's just kind of. It's not the game I want to play when it comes to trading. I want to play on the higher time frames, confirmation trades. But it really just depends. If you're day trading all day, then you can take smaller time frames. If you're trading on a slightly higher time frame, then and you don't have all day to spend trading, then you're going to need to stick to the 1 hourly, 4 hourly, daily kind of time frames, or you might get wrecked. But here is the trade that I'm looking at on an altcoin because this is my specialty at the end of the day. I'm not an expert Bitcoin or Ethereum trader. I try my best. I have fun and I share my progress with you guys, but I don't claim to be an expert Bitcoin trader. I do. Maybe I'm tooting my own horn, but I do claim to be an expert altcoin guy, although charting isn't my number one thing. I do have a decent tendency to pick small cap altcoins, and that's kind of where I devote most of my time, small cap altcoin research. One narrative that's very hot right now that I think still has potential is the ZK narrative, and on the back of that, the L2 narrative. Now, Metis being a roll-up solution that utilizes proofs, I think is underneath this narrative, underneath this basket of other ZK and L2 products that are performing really well. I suppose because you can't buy an Arbitrum token, there's a lot of FOMO to get into these tokens. I think Metis is one of them. And this is one I've wanted to long for a freaking long time. In fact, I wanted to long at $25 and I just didn't do it for some reason. I was busy or just lazy and I missed the run up, which is frustrating because I identified this quite low and didn't get in, but I won't make that mistake again. At $32.75 to $32.90 in this range here, I am looking at a long in the shorter term because this is a pretty key level. And this is a level where we can kind of look to long. Hopefully we get a bounce off this level. You can see previous zones that we've flipped from resistance into support. So we flipped them where we've broken down below this trend. And then if we can confirm above, that's a decent place to long in my opinion. Obviously set a tight stop loss. Don't go too crazy. But this is one that I'm looking at longing. Relatively low leverage, maybe like 5x or something like that for a potential bounce off this zone. We know this is a key zone. We can see the range here that was previously resistance that we are now flipping into support. So this could be a decent zone to buy Metis, and it's one that I've wanted to FOMO into. So I'll give myself leeway now to maybe trade Metis. And if you want to know what exchange to trade it on, it's not on a lot of exchanges. It's not on Bybit, it's not on Bitget. It's on KuCoin, it's on Gate, and for spot, it's on Uniswap. So if you want to buy spot Metis, you can do it on 𝗘𝗏Swap, which is an aggregator. So that'll aggregate across and give you the best place to purchase it from Uniswap. But if you want to trade leverage, you're going to need a KuCoin account or a Gate account, or I think 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗶𝗶 as well. So yeah, if you do want to take that trade, that's where you can do so. And this is one that I'm looking at in the short term for a long, and you guys already have my ETH and Bitcoin orders in. So those will be interesting ones to follow. Let's see what happens with them. But apart from that, I hope you enjoyed the video. I think airdrops are going to be in for a ride this year. I think 2023, just look how many protocols are launching in Q1, Q2. I think what happened is a lot of projects were going to launch in 2022, but due to FTX, due to market conditions, they kind of decided, well, let's just delay it a bit for more favorable market conditions. And I think that's exactly what they got. At the start of this year, Bitcoin has had its best month in January since 2013. So we're in an extremely strong position from a fundamental perspective, price-wise, that projects are now deciding, let's roll out while we can. We got some bullish momentum. Stock market looks okay. Let's do it while we can. And I think that's why a lot of them have accelerated their roadmaps to Q2, Q3 this year after they delayed them from last year. So that's why I say 2023 is huge for airdrops, because it's really the first time in a while we're seeing this amount of projects, this multitude of projects all launching at once. It kind of reminds me of 2021 where, oh my God, if you're in the market in 2021, every day there was a new airdrop. It was insane. Every single day you just get free tokens. It was free money. It was bonkers. This is the closest I've seen to that. So it's been 2 years since we've reached that stage, and I doubt we reach that stage again in 2023. Maybe we get there 2024, 2025. But for now, this is the closest we've gotten to since 2021. At least in the short term. So I'm excited. It's going to be an interesting year for airdrop hunters. Let me know how you're going with it. If you have any questions as well, pop it in the comments below. I do read every comment, so I'll do my best to answer and go through them. If you have any questions, I'm also pretty receptive to Twitter messages and replies. My Twitter gets crazy sometimes, but I do my best to respond to you guys and like stay up to date with the community. I like interacting with you and helping you. So yeah, I'm happy to do that if you pop in a comment and you have a question about anything. But apart from that, I'll see you tomorrow. We are going to be doing the airdrop part 2, where I include a couple that I didn't put in my thread, or at least one that I didn't put in my thread that I realized is actually a big opportunity. So that'll be tomorrow. And we'll go through the trade setups again and kind of look how our trades are going, because it is a volatile week heading into FOMC. So hope you guys enjoyed the show. Smash the like button, subscribe. Of course, turn post notifications on if you haven't already. and I will see you tomorrow for part 2. Peace out, guys.